there is a topic this week, though, that is not exactly the greatest of topics, but it is still Destiny adjacent. So we're going to talk about it. No, nobody is being a sex pest this time. Nobody is being a predator in the community that we're aware of this week.
Not yet.
But, oh God, hopefully never. This morning, Eurogamer posted an article, and I mean, a lot of other people posted it too, but Eurogamer's where I saw it first, where Marty ODonnell was found in contempt of court over his use of Destiny assets and owes Bungie $100,000 in legal fees. In April of this year, I'm reading directly from Eurogamer. In April of this year, Bungie served the celebrated composer behind the original Halo music with contempt of court papers over videos related to Destiny that were uploaded to O'Donnell's YouTube channel and other platforms. Some of these videos were early musical sketches of what became Music of the Spheres, the much-loved musical foundation for 2014's original Destiny. Contempt of court claim relates to the terms of a prior lawsuit between Bungie and Marty ODonnell over his acrimonious exit from the company, a lawsuit that O'Donnell eventually won. Bungie says that O'Donnell, who was their veteran audio director until he was fired in 2014, was ordered to return all material related to Music of the Spheres and Destiny and was blocked from sharing or performing it as part of a 2015 injunction. Bungie said all materials includes not just Music of the Spheres in their final state, but all versions, components, and variations of the tracks. That is, all material involved in any way in the creation of the Music of the Spheres and Destiny. Well, in 2019, to summarize, Marty ODonnell started posting all this to YouTube and to Bandcamp. Which is not great. Superior Court of Washington, King County ruled in Bungie's favor back in July. The company is unable to comment on ongoing litigation, but pointed to the court's ruling above. O'Donnell has declined to comment when contacted by Eurogamer. The court has now imposed upon Mr. O'Donnell a number of sanctions, including a third-party forensic examination of his electronic devices in order to delete any assets relating to Destiny or Music of the Spheres. O'Donnell must also remove all relevant material from the internet. He's already done this, if you were wondering where all that went from his YouTube channel, which it's funny because I was talking about a friend with us a few months ago. He must also write to any third party he is aware of who also posted the material to ask him to remove it. He's also ordered to post a message, the wording of which the parties agreed to, on his Twitter, YouTube, Bandcamp, and SoundCloud sites/channels, stating he did not have legal authority to provide material related to Music of the Spheres or Destiny, and asking anyone who previously downloaded any such assets to delete them and refrain from sharing and will destroy any copies of them. And God, there is just so much here. You will refrain from making any direct or indirect public comment regarding these posts, including responses to those inquiring regarding basis for such posts, and will let the message speak for itself. So far, he has not done this. Must pay Bungie all money of any kind he received from the sale of related materials uploaded to Bandcamp, and is ordered to pay reasonable costs associated with contempt proceeding, including attorney's fees and fees associated with third-party examination. These fees are in dispute, with O'Donnell's representatives arguing the near 100,000 Bungie has called for is unreasonable. And it's just, there's so much. Like, he deleted his Twitter account earlier in the year. It was restored. And in a now deleted tweet, he says, "I'm thinking about retiring from the games industry for good." And then in another delete tweet, that he may be forced to shut down his YouTube. When asked why, O'Donnell replied, "Ask Pete Parsons." That was also later deleted. And then on the 4th of June, O'Donnell tweeted to ask his followers to consider buying the soundtrack to Golem, the 2019 PSVR game he worked on at his new studio, Highwire. The money will help with my huge legal bills. Thank you. That tweet does still remain online. Highwire Games is currently working on the controversial Iraq war game 6 Days in Fallujah. That's how the article ends. So, if you're wondering what Marty ODonnell is up to right now, he's making a game about war crimes, basically. I don't know if that's the right way to phrase it, but that game is, I remember when it first got announced. It's a huge problem. We're not going to talk about the game, but I find it very bizarre that we've gotten to this place with the firing of Marty ODonnell, that we are still having to relitigate this 6 or 7 years later from when he was fired. Because, I mean, he got fired in 2015, I believe. And the last contributions he had, I think, were on The Taken King.
Yeah.
if they were even on that. It may have just been like in House of Wolves. It may have actually been the last thing he worked on. Now that I think about it, but I was talking about this with Joe earlier. It's wild how much better the music got after Marty left.
Yeah, it's definitely taking a turn. I'm gonna be honest with you. And
It's taking a turn.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like the music in Halo is like top tier music. Don't get me wrong, but like
no, I'm not using any of this to
no,
say that Marty O'Donnell's bad.
No. I know.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. But like the music in Destiny never hit the same way that Halo did until I would say.
I think. See, I come down in a weird place on this because there are tracks that I think of in Destiny 1, like the original menu music, the tower music.
Right.
I think of those, but I don't think any of those were quite on the level of like the Halo theme. I still don't think anything is on the level of the Halo theme.
Yeah.
Like that is just simply one of the most iconic pop culture.
I mean, when you start hearing that choir, when you start hearing that choir in Halo, you just like.
Oh, dude, when you hear the Gregorian chant, like, it's all over. Like, I'm hyped up. I'm ready to go save the planet. I'm ready to kill some flood. Like, there's no better mode, right? And I've argued over the years, like, there are a few Destiny tracks that get me really hyped that are really good. And I think a lot of that's come from Michael Salvatore, who worked with Marty for years and years on Halo. Really, it was his musical partner from the very beginning.
Right.
He just didn't have the name recognition until now. I think it's really, like, I bring this up to say that I think it's really unfortunate that there are still issues pertaining to the old guard being let go at Bungie, because we know Marty O'Donnell was unceremoniously let go, and, I mean, thank God his exit wasn't as bad as this, and, like, has not been public like this. Joe Staten, who went back to Microsoft to go advise on first-party stories and storylines and games.
And now Halo.
And is now basically saving Halo Infinite. Has definitely reassured the majority of us who have appeared on this show, knowing that he's back. But it's a shame that we have to keep relitigating this over and over and over from Marty. I do hope that this means that Bungie will eventually release Music of the Spheres in its entirety. Because I'll tell you something, like, I listened to him on YouTube. I think it's gorgeous. It's absolutely beautiful. I think it's some of Marty's best work overall. And it's very clear to see where the inspiration for Destiny came from. I really, really, really would like an official release of this. Like, if you're going to block the man from releasing it, Bungie, I'm pleading with you, please do the right thing and release it.
Yeah.
Because, man, there are... I think there's a line. Like, when this was something that was created, like, for you, like, it's not... Music isn't like a storyline. Like, you can toss a storyline out. We know that, like, Joe Staten's entire storyline was basically scrapped, and now bits and pieces of it have definitely been brought back over the last couple of years.
Right.
Including the whole Crow storyline, which is hilarious to me.
Yeah.
It only took us like 6 or 7 years to circle back to the original storyline.
Yeah, but how long did that take to... What? So...
I think breaking free from Activision was really like...
Oh, yeah.
The beginning.
No, yeah, no, I get that. I'm just saying, like, the whole Crow storyline, was it always supposed to be, like, Aldrin turning into the Crow? Was it always supposed to be that?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
From my knowledge, Aldrin did not exist in the original draft of the game. Crow was supposed to basically be Cade.
Yeah.
They only made Cade comedic for the Taken King because they were like, well, we have Nathan Fillion, we might as well use him.
Right. Yeah, okay. Because I knew the Crow existed. I knew he was supposed to be like a major player, but I didn't know if like the story we're getting now was somehow shoehorned into that original draft, right, where Aldrin died and became the Crow or whatever.
No, that was something that was definitely brought up afterwards, but I mean, we know that Brendan O'Neill had recorded dialogue as the Crow and everything. And you know, he voices Crow now, Crow and Aldrin.
Right.
But he had recorded dialogue way back when. For the Crow. I mean, we heard him speak in the original trailer, in the 2013 trailer, for God's sake.
Right.
I really hope that things like things will never be patched up between these guys. Unfortunately, like any 30th anniversary celebration Bungie's going to do this year is going to be done without Marty, which I would argue, like, when you think of Halo, I mean, like, there's two things you think of. You think of the Master Chief, and you think of the theme. like so much of Halo's identity, I think, is found in the music. I mean, in the early stages of Destiny too. Like I remember sitting there going like, well, the story kind of sucks, but at least the gunplay and the music are cool.
Yeah.
And that's what really mattered to me was like, well, at least Marty's still at the top of his game. Like this may not be as iconic as Halo, but maybe in a few years I'll think of it this way.
Yeah.
And I still think there's some great tracks in that. And, Into the Taken King and Rise of Iron and all that. And then when Salvatore fully takes over, I think is really when it goes up a step.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just, it's a shame because that they're going to do stuff this year. We saw Jason Jones in public for the first time in how many years?
Right.
During the Witch Queen reveal event, talking about where he thinks gaming is going next.
Public, yeah.
But it's like our first it's that we've heard him speak since
that Ryan McCaffrey
first talked about with Ryan McCaffrey.
Yeah,
the guy doesn't do interviews. He's basically a recluse, and I really wish that we could get him, Marty O'Donnell, Jamie Geismer, a few of these others who like really worked on that Halo trilogy and were huge parts of it. I really wish we could get them talking, like maybe with Luke Smith, who was covering it as a journalist during Halo 1 and 2.
Yeah.
For EGM. I really wish we could get them to sit down for a retrospect on the journey from Oni to Halo, from Oni to Halo 3 or something. What was that 8 or 9 year stretch like?
Right.
How do you go from doing a game that Rockstar published to being owned by Microsoft?
To be fair, Rockstar wasn't
an RTS to an FPS.
To be fair, Rockstar wasn't the Rockstar that they are now, though, at that time.
No. They wouldn't attain that for another year.
Yeah.
They would become that with Grand Theft Auto 3, and then Vice City is what kind of cemented that, right?
Are you sure it wasn't State of Emergency that cemented that?
No, I think it was Manhunt and some of those other choice games. But it's really a big bummer that we're probably never going to see these guys who were, like Joe Staten even, who was the cinematics director. We're probably, you might see him talk with them, but you're almost certainly never going to see Marty talk ever again with these guys. And that's, as a fan, selfishly, that really bums me out. But, this is a guy who's been in the industry in the music and in the, entertainment industry for how long? He definitely knew what they told him not to do, and he still did it. And that's what it's kind of hard to have sympathy, I think.
Why? So,
as callous as that seems, it's hard for me to have sympathy.
Why did he get fired? I don't really remember why he got fired.
I would have to go and.
If we don't have that information, it's not a big deal. I was just curious because, I never really. Because I remember he got fired, but I don't even really remember why he got fired. So.
He said he was terminated without cause on April 11th, 2014. That's just wild. Yeah. I don't know that we ever truly got the actual explanation behind it. I'm reading a Eurogame article from 2016, and I don't think that we ever really got that. But he implied that it was due to Bungie leadership, and I feel like it probably came from up top, but also that I think Activision probably had a hand in this.
Mm-hmm.
That was back when they were like, no, you need to scrap the entire story and things like that, which is just absolutely wild. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I tried to look it up, but now it's just talking about the lawsuit now. So,
do what?
I trying to look it up, but it just keeps bringing up the lawsuit that he's going through now. So,
I know that the 2013 debut of Destiny at E3 at Sony's E3 was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back for Marty because none of that was his music.
Mm-hmm.
That was used there. That was all Activision. And so I want to read exactly what he says here. We had a tact agreement with the fans that when we show the fans something, we're showing them Bungie's work. There are some trailers we agree will be outsourced. The plan was not to have the official E3 trailer be outsourced or worked on without us being super intimately involved, which would have meant, at a minimum for me, our actors, our writing, our music, our sound design, and our mix. Certainly, we have no problem partnering with outside creative groups to assist us, but that wasn't what Activision wanted to do on the trailer. They felt they had the business and contractual right to make those decisions. At that point, I felt we were pretty unified, Marty says. I thought we had to make it abundantly clear to our fans this particular piece was made by Activision and not by us. I didn't know how to say that in a way that probably would have been anything other than messy, but I didn't think it was my job to figure out a way to sell that. I just thought it was the right thing to be truthful with the fans. I thought this Activision trailer can go up all over the internet, that's fine, but doesn't need to be on the front page of Bungie.net. That was the beginning of the end. And I mean, he did tweet out on June 11th, 2013. To be clear, the official Destiny E3 gameplay trailer was not made by Bungie. It was made by the company that brought you Call of Duty. That is just crazy. I mean, this is a super long article.
Yeah. It seems like him being upset with Activision.
I think it started out with him being upset with Activision, and it just like kind of grew.
Yeah. Well, it probably went like he was upset at Activision. He got kind of mouthy. Activision went to Bungie and said, "Hey, you got to control this." And then him and the higher up started, that's
well, I mean, he was on Bungie's board at the time.
Yeah.
Because here he says, it says the tweet may not have made much of an impact on social media, but shook the foundations of Bungie. Court documents reveal Bungie's top brass were worried O'Donnell had hurt the Bungie team, hurt the game, drove a negative online discussion, and violated Harold Ryan's, then president of Bungie's, instructions. Activision advised Bungie O'Donnell's conduct may constitute a breach of the party's contract. There was also a suspicion that O'Donnell is more focused on publishing Music of the Spheres than taking the best interests of Bungie into consideration. The other board members were not happy. Activision wasn't happy. My friends at Bungie were like, well, of course Marty was going to do that. Was that a surprise to anybody? I just thought it was a small thing to do to say, hey, this wasn't something we were happy about, and that's what happened. Tensions were running high leading up to the 2013 reveal. And there's just so much here. And it basically all exploded the week before E3, which is crazy. Again, this is several pages long. I encourage y'all to go read it. I read this probably 4 or 5 years ago for the first time, but it's kind of crazy. I mean, it seems like in this he wanted to really move on, but it kind of came back. And to kind of wrap up my thoughts, like it feels like he kind of brought this last part that we heard about today on himself. Like this is squarely on Marty. He knew what he was not allowed to do legally.
Yeah.
And he did it anyways. Like, I cannot imagine there would have been a problem with him going to Bungie and saying, hey, I know that I burned some bridges, but, the Activision deal is gone now. Like, I would like to partner with you guys on an official release of Music of the Spheres. I consider that to be, one of the pinnacles of my work. I would like to work with you guys on an official release. You guys can do it through the Bungie store. Maybe we can give maybe we can give all the money to charity. I don't think Bungie would have said no to that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the way he went about doing it that ultimately has driven the problem. And I hate saying that about a guy that I do greatly admire Marty O'Donnell's work. Mm-hmm. Not just in music, but like in sound. Like I think he has helped create definitively the backbone of what Destiny would become in terms of audio and sound, and really helped shape the feel of that early Destiny 1 universe. But I mean, Halo's not Halo without Marty.
Right.
And I don't think without his contributions, we would necessarily say that Destiny's audio is what it is now without him laying that foundation, at least. And obviously with Michael Salvatore being there to carry on his legacy and carry on what his partner used to do.
Right.
So I don't know. It's so weird. It's so messy. I mean, we had the whole fucking Paul McCartney song.
God. The music video on the moon.
Hope for the Future. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen. I swear to God. It's the weirdest thing for a video game I've ever seen.
Remember the music video on the moon?
We were more worried about that than we were about the storyline of D1. Let that sink in.
I mean, yeah. It sounds like a move to sell a game instead of actually working on the game. To be fair. So.
I don't know, but that's a really sticky story. I'm sure there's going to be more by the time we record next week. Maybe we'll update you in a few weeks, however this goes. I hope I'm able to come back on the 30th anniversary and say, hey, we're getting it released as a 2 LP set. I'm buying the vinyl.
What if they release it as the dungeon music for the loot cave.
If the Paul McCartney song is not in the dungeon, we have systematically failed as a civilization.
No, I hope Paul McCartney is sitting at the end of the dungeon where the chest is, and he's playing the song while you open.
I hope him and Zur are doing the slow dance emote together.
Oh God!
Can I do a Congo line with Paul McCartney in the dungeon? These are questions I need answered. I need somebody. Cosmo, DM me, man. We need to talk.
Oh man, it's good times.
Any final thoughts on the story before we move into Ager Scepter really quickly before Lore Corner?
No, it's a sad situation. I wish it would have happened. I wish things would have happened differently, but it is what it is, I suppose. So.